Built on Green Tree. I like these shows. I think I picked a good year to start this, fellas. 4-0 for the Miami Hurricanes, go up to South Florida, and really at the end of the day, just kind of beat their ass. If you really think about it, I mean, the score 50-15. We might hit on a couple of constructive criticisms, but when you go out there and hang 50 on somebody and shut them out in the second half,
The Bulls fans think this is one they let get away.
Yeah, right, exactly. They were saying it, right? Is there a chance to make a statement, And I said, well, I think it's another chance for Miami to make a statement. But the first half, being up there, I mean, the pace they play at, it's frenetic. And even me, I was like heavy breathing at halftime. I was like, thank God we got a timeout and it's a chance to settle down. And then, the second half, it just Miami was able to take control on both ends. But I think we're going to have to take Chad's lead on this one more time. There is no way we don't talk about the quarterback because it's disgusting what he's doing. I've been searching for a word in every form of media I've done. Stuff for with my friends on Twitter, like a word. And maybe I just stumbled across it because what he's doing is nasty. It is unbelievable what Cam Ward has done. And there's no script to this. I'm just literally going to go around the room, and I'm going this way. Casey, Chad, Rod, you're last.
Around the horn.
I'm going around the horn, and I'm not Tony Reale. But Casey, what do you have to say about our guy? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I just don't. I mean, 24 for 34 for 404 yards. I mean, that's unreal. But he also has weapons around him, and we'll talk about that later. Like, he's got dudes around him. He's got an offensive line that gives him time, and in the rare instance he doesn't have time, he makes a play happen, whether he scrambles out of the pocket with his feet, looks downfield and hits someone dead in the shoulders, or if he's getting his head. Looks like there was one play where he looked like he was about to get his head ripped off, just ducked underneath the guy and stood back up like a statue and just calm, poised, didn't freak out, didn't try to I don't know where to go. Like, he just sat there, found his running back. We gained 50 yards. I mean, like, the guy's unbelievable.
Chad, you just take it up from there. I'm not even going to – Chad and Rod, you just pick it up. I'm not even going to segue into this. You all just roll.
No, I mean, this is the kind of game, and we talked off air before we got on, this is the kind of game in years past where, we would either come close to losing or we lose because, it was obvious to everyone we couldn't really get it going in the ground game early on, but he's such an X factor. I guess USF, and it was really noticeable this week, a lot more than Ball State.
There you go.
That they were, making a solid effort to take the run game away, which I thought was rich of them considering who the quarterback was. But I think they just went with basic football principles. We'll take the ground game away and we'll just see what happens in the pass. And, he cut them to pieces. I think he will own all the single season records for passing when he's done this season. And their strategy to do that kind of worked early on, but there was so much surgery in the passing game that it just really fell apart for them in the end. And that's what you really want to be able to do. You've got many ways to win a football game now. And it's not just, we're a pass team or we're a run team. And if one of those things are taken away, then we're in trouble. One of the biggest things that I'm really, really noticing is just his ability to know everything that's going on and his anticipation. I watched your segment with Ken Mastroli where he's talking about his awareness of the route concepts and what's going to be available and what's happening. What I'm also noticing too is that he knows where the rush is coming from and where the breakdowns might actually be. And he's ducking under it right away. Because I've seen guys come clean and he just knows to take the ball, duck under, get out into open space and deliver the ball down the field. And then, when you got an IQ like that at quarterback plus arm talent and just that calm nature, it's a deadly combination, as USF found out.
Mr. Mack, attack.
So me watching him play, it gives me anxiety. Because as a defensive guy, I'm just thinking like somebody has to have something to slow this dude down, and it's not happening. Every week he's impressing me more and more what he can do. It just seems like he does not belong playing on Saturdays. It's just like the game is too slow for him, and everything is just moved slow. He understands that everything that the other guy said. I just echo that, and it's just happening to him at such a slow pace. He just seems like he's like Neo in the Matrix. I mean, it's just all slow to him, man. It's impressive to watch.
So I want to ask a couple things. So prior to the game and me getting ready for the broadcast, Alex Golish is talking about Cam Ward and his experience. He's played in a whole bunch of ball games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically echoed everything we've said. I think almost everyone that's watched him has said the same thing, right? His demeanor, his presence, his knowledge, his patience, his calmness, all of that, right? And the thing that fascinates me, and I'm going to go Rod to Chad to KC. Was that you, Chad? Chad, we have an accident?
Yeah, don't worry about me. I'm good.
That's a turn. I thought you create turnovers. You don't actually turn it over. That shirt. What is that shirt? That shirt says "play defense." What fascinates me inside of that, with as much experience as he has, and by the way, you talk to the coaches, they'll say the same thing. The fascinating thing to me, Rod, I'll start with this, and I'll let everyone kind of chime in, is even though he has that much experience as a college player, he is still decoding coaches at a professional level. And that to me is what's still fascinating, that he, as a young kid, so to speak, maybe not so young in the collegiate game, but still as a kid, has that much of a grasp of what he is doing, going up against adults who are trying to game plan against him.
I agree. And that's, to me, again, that's what causes me so much anxiety watching him play football, because the defensive guy in me has every coach come to play University of Miami that Cam Ward is the guy. Everybody knows that. So me watching him pick apart and dissect and just totally obliterate defensive game plans is crazy to me, because every week I'm like, they have to have something to slow him down, and they don't. So it's just going into these games, just wondering, like, what can they do? Just if I was on the defensive staff, like, what would you do to stop this guy? And what would you do?
So that's a good question, because, and I'm sorry to interrupt, and Chad, you can pick up on this after, and even KC. So Brent, I was watching some of Brent Pry today, and we got to affect the quarterback, right? That's the thing. We got to affect the quarterback, get him off schedule, put him in, some bad down and distance. But my response to that would be, well, what is affecting him? Like, what would you do to affect him?
So in this season, in the 4 games, we watch people go too high to try to put too high safeties to slow it down. Didn't work. Try to play coverage, didn't work. I mean, USF took I think they really had a little respect for our receivers, because they just basically tried to man up, load the box, and make our receivers win. But our quarterback can do it. You watch them, on thirds down, do some exotic stuff and dropping, guys off in coverage, and him reading that, taking his time. He can run with his feet. He's accurate in the pass game. His anticipation. I don't see a weakness in him at all. I mean, at this point, I can't find one. So I don't know how you can stop him. And he doing it really without a really strong running game right now. So he's throwing the ball, and they still can't do anything with it.
Chad, what would you do? Like, what could you do?
That would depend largely on what I have in terms of talent. So if I've got guys
spoken like a coach.
Yeah, if I've got guys that can cover, and if I'm coaching on a staff, the guys that are there are going to cover. That much I know. So I would definitely try to bring some kind of strange pressure every now and then, not your traditional, blitzes. I'd get creative on the blitzes, and then, fall off into some coverages sometimes, so give some blitz looks. Basically the kind of stuff, if you pay attention, that Brian Flores does on Sundays with the Minnesota Vikings. Like, he drove CJ Stroud crazy yesterday. Me as a defensive coordinator, I'm more along the lines of being creative and not traditional and coaching out of a box. So that would be the route that I would go. Change the looks up as much as possible, both in the secondary and then across the lines of scrimmage, in terms of who's blitzing, who's coming, what types of blitzes, twists, things of that nature. I don't want him back there comfortable baking the cakes that I've seen him baking there in all these games so far. He's just far too comfortable. He looks like he's playing in the backyard with his young cousins on the 4th of July. So that would drive me nuts. I would do all that I can in that. And maybe tell my guys early on, the first 15-yard penalty is on me. I need him frazzled some kind of way. I just don't need him back there looking like he's at a cigar lounge. We're gonna have to do something about that part.
KC, let me ask you this, because we touched on the run game. I think Chad for sure swung to our side this week with Ball State for South Florida. So in terms of how they tried to play the run, so what do you do, right? Because I assume if you play coverage in some way, shape, or form, then you could run the ball. If you're going to try and load up and take away the run, we've already seen what he could do. What is left?
All right. Chad touched on it a little bit, like changing the picture, changing the types of pressures, unique pressures that maybe the D coordinator has in his bag of tricks that he hasn't shown on film yet. Things that offensive line coach like Mirabal haven't seen, where he can't tell his guys, hey, we got to look out for this to happen. But unfortunately, for those other teams, we do have the wall of Mirabal to pick up those blitzes, to pick up those stunts. I mean, very, very rarely is he getting pressure. And that's a testament to them picking up. I mean, I messaged it to you during the game. Carpenter was picking up middle dog cross blitzes like a professional. There's a lot of
so you might have to for some of the listening audience, myself included, you might have to extrapolate on that. A middle dog blitz, like I've got a dog out in the living room, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's a standard cross dog, which is you have two linebackers lined in the middle. Sometimes the front's either a split front, so 2-3 techniques, or maybe even a loose shade and a 3 technique. And they will loop out, and the middle linebacker and usually the will linebacker will cross. Typically what that does in protection causes issues for centers and running backs, because usually you're sliding to one and the running back is picking up the other. And Rod would probably be able to tell you the best of this. They usually start with the one sliding away from the center. So the center sliding left, it's the running or the linebacker coming from the right that comes first.
Yep.
Usually picking off that guy. The running back's so focused on blocking him that he forgets the looping linebacker over top.
Absolutely.
Zach Carpenter slid to the left and just stuck his arm out and grabbed the linebacker and pulled him in front of him and made sure his running back knew what we call the pizza rule. I grabbed your slice, you go grab my slice, and we got this thing picked up. And there's a lot of centers in the NFL right now that struggle with that blitz.
By the way, I like that you put it in food terms. I'm getting hungry. I was already hungry before we started.
I mean, it's 8:30. We all probably need to eat. So.
Yeah, exactly right. By the way, speaking of on the offensive line, two things actually. I think we all see what we want to see, or sometimes we see the things, that just catch our attention. CC Maui Noah took the defensive end on one play and literally grabbed him and tossed him like to the ground. That kid for South Florida is pretty good, Vaughn the edge. The guy did nothing, but he freaking tossed him and pancaked him on two separate occasions. And it was awesome to watch for a little frail 5'10", 160 pounder that played 1 year of football before his mom made him stop.
Oh, listen, these guys are dogs. I mean, and I'll talk about hand fighting. If once we start, doing some film breakdown and things like that, like I'll show you guys, these guys are definitely working with a Taekwondo or some sort of hand martial arts expert on the offseason, because the amount of traps that I'm seeing on defensive ends that want to try and do the long arm move, CC is probably the best one of the offensive linemen that does it. And then on top of that, I mean, let's give kudos where kudos are due. I mean, Bell is out there performing every week. He's gotten better. And the competition has gone up, and he has leveled up. He's not at a JUCO anymore. He's playing D1 ball, and he's playing against much better competition, especially this past week, than what he's probably used to. And he played really well. And it was also cool, like Okanola went in there and got some plays in where he played pretty well. He's definitely got a little bit more left to work on. He's not a finished product yet. Neither is Bell. But it's awesome to see those guys come in, step up, and perform at a high level. I mean, I don't think Bell had a penalty or a pressure this week.
Chad, actually, Rod. Let me go to you, Rod. Which is the emergence of Horton? Not the emergence, but they had a break. Horton had a breakout game. Sam Brown finally had that big play, which I'm not sure if that play was more a function of Cam Ward delivering the ball in a special spot. But we saw Horton step up, and is that a function? And Chad, you can pick up on this in the end, because you indicated as much a function of how Cam Ward is reading the field, or also as much of a function as like who do you defend? Like you can't defend everybody.
Yeah, I think it's Cam Ward recognizing what the defense was trying to do to them. I think early on, the focus was Restrepo, obviously, was Restrepo, and then with George getting hurt, um, you know, just to see Horton come in and make plays. Again, we lose that game last year to Florida State when Restrepo they kind of focused on him, and we didn't have any receiver to step up. So to watch him step up and then watch Brown finally make a play, the emergence of those two receivers really helped the team. And I think Cam just not forcing that ball to Restrepo earlier, him getting the ball to the other guys and them really stepping up to perform just shows the depth that we have in the receiver room that's finally starting to show a little bit.
What about that throw to Sam Brown, Mr. Wilson?
Man, sometimes you're trying to play too high, you're trying to play cover two, and you're trying to do some funny things and disguise looks, and you're better off just being where you're supposed to be. So that safety got caught down a little too low, and by the time he realized it, he didn't really take a good angle. Ended up going a little too flat, or maybe he just underestimated the kind of speed that Sam had. And the throw just kept him in stride, didn't have to slow down for it, whistled it right in there, and he caught it in stride, and, the rest is history. I really feel like that broke their back. That and them getting the USF getting the ball back, moving it towards the end of the half and then missing a kick. I think that just really started to get the ball rolling on them getting rolled up.
I'm with you on that. I think that swing I actually think the possession before, I think is when they kind of ate up the entire second quarter. I think it was like an 18-play drive, but it ended with a field goal instead of a touchdown. And I think that combined with the touchdown, combined with the miss, and then into the second half, and it was history.
Yeah, they needed the lead going into the locker room, I feel like. Kudos to them and their fans for creating an atmosphere there that you just don't really normally get at USF games. I didn't watch their game against Alabama, so I don't know if they had that kind of attendance and fanfare, but it was loud, and those fans were juiced up, and I think having that happen going right into the locker room, I'm sure at least 50% of that fan base was like, oh, all right, well, there it is, you know what I mean? So, and then we came out and did what we did. That really just took all the juice out of them.
Yep.
Rod, I think you indicated to us a little bit that you kind of see the running back room settling in, although they're using almost everybody.
Yeah, and that's what I see more. I'm watching it. It looks like they're starting to define roles for the guys. You can watch them use the guys differently with Ajay Allen coming in. I felt like he provided a real spark for us in the running game. Mm-hmm. I think he really did that with his his agility in the backfield, be able to make a few guys miss and make plays really helped us. Them using Chris Johnson the way you see them use him, getting him out of space, throwing him passes.
By the way, you weren't here last week. They did. Casey and Chad, give me a little credit. They worked a little something off the motion to Chris Johnson.
Yeah, you did say they'd have another play off of that.
Yeah,
I didn't think it would be that, but he almost
that tight end screen was sick.
And if he could have made one guy miss, he would have gone for a lot further. But it was a nice wrinkle.
Yeah, and them just putting him in space and throwing him the go balls. I think he is on our offense the guy that has the speed that people just can't match. So getting him in space to me makes sense. Using him all over, not just as a running back, more as a weapon, makes sense to me. But them using him in that way, them getting Allen involved, obviously, the two big guys, those guys in getting in the goal line and putting the fullback in there, really running old school our backfield, getting downhill, really looks good. And and Jordan is going to be Jordan, the young guy coming in. But you can watch and see them starting to really define roles. So especially a guy like Chris Johnson, because it's interesting to see how they would use him. Because he isn't built like the other back. But he is dangerous that we need to have that type of weapon. So them using him and finding ways was interesting to me.
I'm going to do the Chad Wilson bulletin board material. That the throw to Johnson on the go route, even though it was across the hash, that might have been Cam's worst throw because he had him.
Yeah, he had him. Yeah.
Can we make so we got to put something out there? Darrow criticizes Heisman candidate.
Hey, we can't just let them flow through and think it's sweet. So yeah.
I didn't realize Lyle had that kind of speed. Rod, did you is that what you saw at St. Thomas?
Yeah, I did. Remember I told you guys we spoke about him. I felt like he was the combination of power and speed. We got some of the guys like Chris, just is a speed guy. You got our big guys, but I think Jordan is a combination of that power and speed. And yeah, I watched him, man. What he did his last year senior at St. Thomas was crazy. People didn't talk enough about him because they just used to St. Thomas, pushing guys out like that. But it was special to watch him.
Now, I want to pick up on Restrepo real quick, Chad. He would not be someone I'd want to, DB wide receiver one-on-one drills during camp. I would not want to have that. I'd kind of move, I'd kind of position myself and just kind of time it out and make sure that wasn't me.
Well, he kind of made that name for himself in high school. That's really how he came into the forefront, is going to camps and stuff like that, and then having video out there of him routing guys up. So he's definitely a tough assignment in the slot. You're probably going to end up having to bracket him, and I think that's a little bit of what they were trying to do. But when we've got the guys that we've got on the outside, you could see the kind of problems that causes for you. I mean, even still, he ended up with 6 catches and damn near 100 yards. So it's a tough thing. If you are going to really lean in and take our ground game away, then it's hard to say you're going to take our ground game away and you're going to get 2 people on Restrepo and think that you're going to have enough for the other guys that are out there, Jacolby and Horton and now Sam Brown coming on the scene and showing people that he can fly. It's a really tough assignment. And, like Rod said, the defensive guy in me is really sitting here thinking, how would I defend that? You're going to run out of players. Obviously, USF did, but it's going to be interesting to see when we get into really stronger programs, let's say, that do have the depth, that can sub out, certain, linebackers, let's say, and get DBs in there, how this will all work. Plus, you've got a guy like Chris Johnson that can come out of the backfield and be a really tough matchup for your linebacker that should probably not be in the game.
So I don't know if I'm trying to think if we had seen it before, but I guess back to Chad and Rod real quick, because Casey mentioned it earlier, right? There were a handful of plays where, however they were playing coverage, I can't tell you that I specifically remember, what USF was doing specifically on these plays, but then Damien Martinez leaks out of the backfield and there's no, what do you do there?
Tough. I mean, you're trying to bring heat. We dump a screen. He's a tough tackle one-on-one. Plus he's got guys in front of him. If the guys in front of him on that screen take care of the linebackers, because that's what's left, now you're asking a DB to take, this guy down at full speed, and he's a big guy. So, the DB has to want to do that, and that's always 50-50. And
look at Rod laughing.
Yeah,
look at Rod laughing at that. He's
right. Then he's got to have the
you.
actual skill to get it, to make it happen. So I'm down for seeing more, screens like that to Damien, and watching the DBs try to do something about it.
I guess that's also the danger, Rod, right? If you're going to play man, right, and turn your back, and then if you send pressure, and then there's only so many things you can try and take away. And back to your initial commentary on the quarterback, he's in complete control. It's going to be hard to mess him up.
Yeah, and I think that's what we don't talk enough about on that play is the quarterback and the composure he had just to see it and get the ball out right on time is easy. Sometimes you, as a defensive guy, you just saying, okay, I'm going to make him execute, and most quarterbacks can't operate under that type of duress. He's not going to be able to. The threat of that type of violence will make him, the throw may not be on time, but he was just so calm and just got it out of his hands, and let's go on with it.
Can we talk about the fact that he's so calm that even when he is getting tackled, he just thinks to throw the ball to the running back?
Yeah.
Behind him. I thought I was watching Ed Reed take the ball away from what's his name back in 2000.
BC, yeah.
I'm like, oh dang, they're finally gonna get him. Also, oh, ball's out. Holy crap, that's a smart play. It's smart, it's stupid, but it's awesome at the same time. That he knew other quarterbacks. Yeah, he knew he was there. His presence, again, knowing what's around him is just unbelievable. I mean,
he has full awareness of what's going on around him. And then this week I saw USF do what I thought Florida would do, and if I wasn't a hurricane, say should do, when the guy's trying to casually go out of bounds as a quarterback. They, tried to wrap him up. I will say Cam flopped a little bit at the end, which was cool
Oh,
to get the 15-yard penalty, but you can't have a guy just casually strolling out of bounds.
I had a friend of mine after the Florida game go like, "Oh, dude, if I'm on defense, I'm just laying them out." It's like, all right, well, that's a free extra 15 yards. I think that's why Cam does it like that. Hey,
you got to do it in the first quarter. First quarter.
Let me go ahead and get the extra 15 out of you.
So he's doing that, and then he's taunting you at the goal line, right? Literally, like just pointing at them, going, "We're coming right here, and there's nothing you can do." And Miami scores, and he's just it all. He's got the bravado. He's got I don't nowhere in my core do I have that kind of I don't know. Chad might be the most confident one of this group. I don't have nearly that kind of confidence to be doing anything close that resembles that kind of smack talk.
Listen, when you're playing football when you're playing football at my size, you gotta have that. And when you're Cam Ward and you're a quarterback and everyone's hunting for you and trying to take your head off, it does help to have that kind of bravado. That keeps you, like Rod said, cool, calm, and collected, in the pocket there and able to feed the ball to the guys that need to, because there is the threat of violence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Casey, you gotta appreciate that though.
Dude, I was just about to say, like, that just, you talking about it, me watching him do it, makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Because, dude, if I had a quarterback that trusted me so much to look at the defense on the 1 yard line and go, it's going right here, and you're not going to do anything about it because these offensive linemen are just going to steamroll you into the end zone. That just gets you going. Like, that gets the juices flowing.
Yeah, forget about that element. What it does for the Hogs in front.
What does it do for you guys, though? If Rod Mack is playing linebacker and he's doing that, what's going through your head?
I want to. What you want to do?
I'm not in on that play. I'm on the sidelines asking Rod what happened when he comes off.
Right,
man. You know what I'm telling you? The next time his ass going out of bounds, hit him.
Mm-hmm. And Cam's just doing like this. He's just pointing at you. Try me, buddy. Try me.
Yeah.
Try me. Speaking of the defense, I know it was a little frenetic there in the first half, but at the end of the day, 62 yards, I think it's 62, 67 yards rushing, 15 points, 6 points off of the turnover from Jacolby, 250 plus yard field goals. And when I went back and watched it, I looked at the defensive line, and to me, those guys, Mesidor, Barrow, Barron, Kiko behind him, even Ahmad Moten, those guys were in charge all night. The USF to me had no answers for Miami's front.
There's an offensive lineman in his lap every play.
I probably should direct it. I just left that out there for anybody to play grab ass with. So Chad, you go.
No, we did a good job handling the run. I thought just as a pure pass rush, we didn't have as much success as we had in some other games. And we ended up having to blitz to get that kind of pressure on. I'm sure that's something that we will look at. But in terms of controlling that line of scrimmage and not letting the runs get off, I thought we did a really good job there. There was some times that, where the quarterback was able to get out and, do some things. I mean, he's a talented quarterback. I thought Brown played a really good game and, put some eyes on him. But in terms of just the traditional running game, I thought we did a really good job there, forcing them into a passing game. We did to them what they wanted to do to us, and that is a large function of how the defensive line was playing. So it's not every week that they're going to be back there just sacking guys. Sometimes you're having a really good game just by controlling the line of scrimmage and not letting a team run the ball down your throat or have their way and have long sustained drives and things like that. So from that standpoint, I thought they played a really good game.
Well, Rod, I thought so. To Chad's point, I thought maybe the sack. I think it was ended up being 3 or 4 sacks on the final.
4. We had 4 sacks.
4 sacks, but I thought they pushed the pocket a lot. I know they did a good job stopping the run, but when I went back and watched Mesidor and Barrow inside, even Barron on the outside early. I mean, Barron was doing what he had done previously, just maybe not finishing the play or the ball's coming out. But I thought we were really pushing and collapsing the pocket and making it somewhat uncomfortable for Brown, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I felt like it was good to see us adjust to, I think, really our first time a mobile quarterback, because Brown can move around a little bit. So I feel like him moving around helped hurt us with getting a lot of sacks like we would get with the pressure. But Barron, I don't think we talk enough about him. I mean, everybody, we give the quarterback, rightfully so, we give him a lot of attention. But Barron what he is doing this first 4 games is crazy. I mean, he's right up there on the defensive side of just being so dominant. But I agree with what Chad said. We stopped the run and we got pressure. We got some pressure, but it wasn't the sacks because I think that the quarterback was a little bit more mobile and he wasn't where we thought he would be at some times when we got back there.
I thought Mesidor was coming along. I thought I was going to get a woo-wee or something out of you, Rox. The last time we talked about Mesidor, you were making noises that, maybe only are done in the privacy of your own house.
Yeah, because when you like, he is such a man child. Like to watch him sometimes get his hands on guys and he just throws them around, kind of like what CC does on the offensive line. I just feel like he just throws guys around. Man, he's so physical and so strong. That defensive line is impressive. It's really, 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 really impressive, man. It's impressive.
Yep.
Casey, from you seeing it from an offensive vantage point, how do you assess the deep? We'll just start with the front.
I mean, one of the things that I noticed differently, and they probably rushed this way because it was a mobile quarterback. We didn't do a ton of stunts, games, twists, however you want to call it. We stayed in our rush lanes. But what I noticed is that we may not have been getting the sacks, but he had offensive linemen at his toes every single time he dropped back to pass. And that's a credit to how strong and fast these defensive linemen are. I felt like it was a straight bull rush fest. They were like, all right, we're going to play the Bulls. Let's show them who the real Bulls are. Like, they just went straight down their throats every single time. And you had the linebackers. I mean, CC played spy a little, or not CC, but Kiko played spy a little bit to make sure he kept him in check. There's not much else you can ask from this defensive line right now. You tell them to do something and they do it. I made a comment and we saw Coach Taylor get a little animated on the sideline because the guy got out because one guy didn't stay in his rush lane. And that's how important it was for us to stay in our rush lanes this whole game because we could see how mobile this guy is. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you got 4 defensive linemen shoving 5 offensive linemen in your face and you can't get the ball off, I mean – credit to them. Credit to how they stood up in the red zone. They, it's like a switch was flipped once they got into that red zone. Like they're like, all right, we're putting our feet down. They're not getting past us. We're not giving up any touchdowns. I mean, anytime you have to run a trick play to get a touchdown,
that
shows
was a sign for me. Like,
yeah,
me too. Me too. If you need to run a trick play to get a touchdown early in the game,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that shows us you're not going to be competitive with us.
So the kid threw for 300 yards, but. And Chad, we can agree or disagree. I felt like it was kind of a quiet. There's such a thing. I didn't feel like 254. My bad. The backup came in. Obviously, they had the screen to the running back, which they got loose, and then Atkins in the first half was presenting problems in terms of how they were motioning him. Did you see something different in the second half from Miami?
Well, the game getting a little bit out of hand kind of changed things for USF. It changes your play calling. I thought they did a really good job schematically in getting Atkins open. It's kind of like how, you would see Keenan Allen in his years with the Chargers. They're doing a lot to get him open. So it wasn't just the motions. It was lining him up in bunch. It was the stacks that they were lining up in. It seemed like that was a big part of their game plan to try and get him open, get him going, get catches, extend drives, hitting him on third down. So they did a really good job with that. And, it was a tough assignment for Darryl Porter Jr. to be running across the formation. Yeah. And then picking him up in the bunches, the ways, that they tried to hide him. The times when they just lined him up statically, Darryl did a really good job on him because it's just straight up mano-a-mano then. But when they started with the tricks, he'd get open, find himself in spots. The kid's a good route runner. He has a good understanding of where the soft areas are and, what he needs to do against to get himself open against all of the coverages. So we do got to give them some credit for that. And the kid had 11 catches for 125 yards. I don't think anyone else on their team had more than 2 or 3 catches. So it really was all about him. Between him and the quarterback taking off and running and a couple screens that they hit, that was the offense for them. And so once the game got out of hand, I think it just changed up a little bit of what they wanted to do and what we were able to do defensively.
I think, I won't say, my opinion, and Rod, you can comment, which is if that's 11 for 125, so you're 10 yards a completion, right? Whereas at some point they were going to try and hit you deep, right? That's the behind their offensive philosophy is they're going to go quick, spread the field, and try and get you to bust at some point. And I actually thought all three of the DBs that were playing on the outside did a good job of not giving up any deep balls and running man for man. Being there on the field, they would try and hit you with some double moves, and the guys stuck right with it. So even though Atkins was effective in the slot, they were not able to get any X plays except for that screen pass.
Yeah, and I think our offense helped us out a lot, like Chad said, by scoring points to take him out of that, because he isn't the guy at that time they was trying to get down the field. He was more just to create space and get open and kind of move the chains. But once we start scoring those points, they couldn't hit anybody vertically, and we really wasn't worried about him beating Porter vertically. So it just took them out of their game once the offense helped with that, with scoring points.
And then I'll go back to KC, because this has been told to me once before, just in the macro, and not every game's going to play out this way, but the way this team is built, essentially, the quarterback or an offense that can score a lot of points, and if you get a lead, then you kind of unleash your front four, and it's a disaster for the opponent and the quarterback and the and KC. When I guess if you're dropping back and the other team's got a 2 to 3 touchdown lead, and you've got a front like Miami's, that's a bad spot to be in.
No, you never want the defensive lineman to be in their stance with their ears pinned back and just straight rushing. Like, that's a complete disadvantage to an offensive lineman. It's happened to us in the past where, we get down and now we have to deal with nothing but straight pass rush, different twist games, guys who are just going to come flying off the ball, because when you're in the lead, you got to keep them guessing. You can't let them get in that mindset of like, oh, I'm just going to come off the ball here, because can't do that on defense. You just come off the ball on defense, and now we're running a run play, and you're 10 yards upfield trying to rush the passer, and the ball has been 10 yards downfield the opposite direction. So, yeah, for us to be able to get a lead and let our pass rushers do their job and just have the freedom of knowing they're going to pass the ball. That's all they're going to do. They can't do anything else because we have a huge lead. It's just a big advantage for the defensive line and a big time disadvantage for the offensive line.
Then I feel like that South Florida just kind of like, I want to say they didn't tap out, but they wore down, right? And I think you didn't see really Miami players drop. And I know on the sidelines, the people that are responsible for being in having your team in shape, I think we're pretty happy with how their team looked at the end.
Good.
Yeah, it really did look like USF ran out of players. That just looked like what ended up happening there. They were in there for a good fight early on, and then they just ran out of bullets, if you want to use that terminology. And so kudos to us. Kudos to them for the little first half fight. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Toughen us up a little bit. Two things defensively I think that was good for us to face was a mobile quarterback, as Rod said, and then a slot wide receiver that could pose a problem in conjunction with some of the things that they did. Good for us to see that early in the year against an opponent that really didn't have all the horses to give us an L, but to prepare us for perhaps someone down the road with maybe better personnel, more depth that might attack us in that way. And maybe we can approach it, a little more different, maybe tighten up a little bit more on the bunch formations or do something different against the motion stacks and things of that nature. So that was a good kind of rather than just a static quarterback in a traditional passing game with a team that we end up beating 50-15, we saw some things there that could kind of prep us down the road.
What do you think? Who do you think Rod's texting with right now? Who do you think Rod's texting with
right
now? Rod, who are you texting with?
Huh? I'm not going to even tell y'all who I'm texting with.
Gotcha.
The next quarterback, the next Cam Ward.
Gotcha.
No.
The next Cam Ward for the Miami Gardens Ravens.
So if you know, I coached DeMarcus Van Dyke's son plays for me on the team. So I've been giving him crap like the last few days. Trust me.
So you've revealed the secret identity.
Yes, I've been giving him crap, man.
And what has he said back? How does one respond when they're backed up?
What can he say?
so that's.
I mean, he should have you blocked by now. But.
Nah, he was really, he was really humble about it all week, and I was like, man, you a king. Don't give me that humble crap.
Yeah.
So he was
come on, bro.
All week. Yeah.
All right.
That's
Well,
something.
we're going to end it there. We had something else we're going to go to, but I feel like I'll be force feeding it. So we're going to save a topic for another show that we
Okay.
can all jump in on. Now, actually, lastly, to Chad's point, I was thinking of that before I got distracted by Rod's distraction, which is they're going to see a quarterback like that this week against Virginia Tech. The kid from Virginia Tech is similar to the Brown kid in terms of his mobility, how they want to kind of get the ball out quick, use the RPO, use the read game. So we'll see if they can get some duplication. Yeah, 100%. All right, Rod, can you just want to read your last? I'm just going to read your last text to DVD. Just read it straight up. Whatever it says, just read it.
I don't know if I can, but
you can. We have editors. Read it.
I'm gonna go. Hold on, let me get to it. Right
Van Dyke gonna have to watch this show.
Yeah. I'll send him the clip.
Yeah, the real Van Dyke.
Yeah. Just read the last one, whatever it says.
He's trying to find something clean for us.
Well, I can tell, obviously.
Hey, your grandma's not gonna watch this, man.
I can see y'all. So I just after the game on yesterday, I texted him good morning. He shot me a birdie. I said, don't let the devil use you, my brother. Today is the day of healing. No, Sunday. I said, today is the day of healing.
Oh my God. Well, I think that's a good way to end it, fellas. It was fun. The season's been fun. Our quarterback has been a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And you know what? We get so caught up in the quarterback is rightfully we should, but the defense deserves its due praise as well, holding that team to 15 points.
Absolutely.
So we will talk again next week. We've got some Friday night fun at Hard Rock, so hopefully they pack the rock and move to 5-0 before we head out west to Cal Berkeley. Who's going to stay up? Who's staying up past their bedtime to see that game?
I'm going out to that game. I'm going out to that game.
You're coming out to Berkeley?
You know we're watching that.
All right. Of course, you can't do the show without watching it. We are true. Nope. We are true believers. So, good job by your squad playing defense. Casey's always bringing good swag in terms of the apparel, and Rod's wearing the check instead of the 3 stripes. So whatever. We got to get him some gear.
He's a Nike guy, man. He's from that era.
I'm from that era.
I started in that era. I was forced into the other.
All right, fellas. Good night.
Good night,
guys. All right. Good night.